Hi, I'm David Levitt, and this is another exciting edition of Pop Goes the Culture. He has been called a troublemaker, but in truth, he calls himself a trouble magnet. I call him laugh out loud funny and one of the best storytellers about himself. From the time he was a gravelly-voiced pipsqueak of 10 on the Partridge Family, Danny Bonaduce has been the kind of guy you just can't tear your eyes away from. And in this three-part conversation about his early life, you'll see for yourself. Words don't do justice. Here's Danny Bonaduce.
Really easy. What were you doing before the Partridge Family started? How did you get involved with that?
Well, before the Partridge Family, I was busy in kindergarten. I think the very first show I did, somebody did that, I forget what it is, but it's kind of a search on your entire career. And in 1960-something, I did Mayberry RFD, The Ghost of Mrs. Muir, and something else. So at 5, I was pretty busy. Bringing in that dough, 5 years old.
Get out there and work. What was, when did you get the part with Partridge Family? Do you remember the audition?
I do remember the audition for the Partridge Family. It was terrifying because in the room was Jerry Paris, who you might remember as the neighbor Jerry the dentist, I believe, on the Dick Van Dyke Show. Well, he had directed me in a TV movie of Cat Ballou when I was a little kid and kind of fired me. He hated me on the set. And I said, well, I'm doomed. And not only was I not doomed, but Jerry fought to get me. He said, that's the best kid. That's the kid for the job. Because there was another Partridge Family that pretty much got the part. And they had it edited so I would look like I appeared in that family. And everybody went, sure enough, that kid's better. You're right. And Jerry Paris fought for me to get the part, and I got it.
Originally, I had Shirley Jones said originally the Cowsills. They tried to put the Cowsills in the show.
They originally wanted the Cowsills because they, of course, are a singing family. There's just one flaw with putting the Cowsills on TV. They are hideously ugly people.
She said it nicer than that.
Shirley's a nicer person than I am. Almost everybody's a nicer person than I am.
Do you remember doing the pilot?
Yeah, I remember a great deal about the Partridge Family. It's funny because it's so, not only is it as long ago as it is for David or Shirley, but I was a little kid with little kid memories. But it's surprising how vivid the Partridge Family can be. And other times, when I'll be telling a story about the Partridge Family just because I won't grow old gracefully, I'll be telling somebody a story about the Partridge Family, and it's almost like a movie I saw. Like, it didn't really happen to me. It's just a story I know real well.
So what was that pilot like?
The pilot for the Partridge Family was crazy because a lot of it was filmed in the Hollywood Palladium, which was just, I mean, it was just such a big deal right off the bat. You know, because The Ghost of Mrs. Muir took place on this little set that I was on, and Mayberry RFD took place in a little thing that actually looked like Mayberry. You felt safe. And the Partridge Family was just gigantic. All of a sudden there's hundreds of extras at the Palladium, we're at Caesar's Palace, it was just gigantic and a tad overwhelming.
I remember that first episode and the whole thing with Shirley telling you all, close your eyes and do that whole thing. How real was that for you?
Well, in the very first episode of the Partridge Family, what happens is the joke is that Shirley doesn't want to do it, and we all want to do it. And the curtains open at the Hollywood Palladium, and only Shirley sings, and the rest of the family is petrified, literally frozen, and won't sing or speak. And Shirley does a little comedy. She riffs a little, if you will, and then tells us all, close your eyes and just start singing like you're in your garage. How real was that for me? I'd have gone out there and done an hour. I'd have gone there and said, evening, I'm Dave Bonaduce, I'm 10, I'll be your host for the evening. I've never been much of a wallflower.
No, it never seemed like you were. I mean, how close was Danny Partridge to Danny Bonaduce?
It's an interesting question. How close is Danny Partridge to Danny Bonaduce? But I'm not sure that the question isn't how close is Danny Bonaduce to Danny Partridge, because we kind of formed each other at that age. 10 through 15 is a real, you're kind of molding your character at that time. So I don't know if I became more like Danny Partridge or Danny Partridge became more like me. It would make sense that usually on situation comedies or any TV show, they start to meld in your real character. But I don't think at 46, Danny Partridge would have been in some of the places I've been. I think Danny Partridge would be Donald Trump. right now.
He was quite the businessman.
Yes, he was, and he was good at it.
Yeah. They say he was 10 going on 40.
Yes, they said that all the time. You know what's sad? Because they always said Danny Partridge was 10 going on 40, and then they would say, I think you're a 40-year-old midget, and then they'd say, you're a 40-year-old man in a kid suit. I'm now older than the guy they accused me of being. I'm 46. I'm older than the old guy they said I was.
You and Dave Madden had a great on from the very beginning. You could talk about Dave.
I can talk about Dave Madden forever. Dave Madden, if a grown-up at all taught me anything about comedy, or at least timing, it was Dave Madden. Dave Madden the guy would sometimes have 3 lines per episode, but they'd always be huge laughs. Sometimes they were a look, and the man get a laugh. I don't know if you can teach comedy to a child, even if you're not trying, but I think just being around him helped me.
Yeah, there was a moment in the pilot, obviously, where you pushed that cassette
underneath the toilet stall. I remember that.
And the look he gives you you just see the top of his like, what the hell is going on? It's all in his eyes.
No, and they very wisely, for the first couple of years, kept the relationship between Danny Partridge and Reuben Kincaid quite alive. That was, David Cassidy was the heartthrob, and the family was the family interest, if you will, but the heart of the comedy was the Danny Partridge-Reuben Kincaid relationship.
Yeah, it was hilarious. What kind of stuff do you think you learned from Dave?
Dave, I don't know that these are real terms anymore. The Partridge Family is pretty archaic now. It's really an old, it's an old show. It wasn't in black and white. It made the leap to color. But aside from that, it's a very old show. So I don't know if these terms are used anymore. There are a couple of things he would do. One was called a slow burn. That's an acting technique. And one is called a knowing look. And they'd say it in the script. They'd say, and so-and-so says this, and he does a slow burn. And I wouldn't even know what it meant. And he would do it and just get a laugh every time. And then he'd give a knowing look, and I don't even know what it means. And he'd get a huge laugh every time. And Dave Madden is one of my favorite people. I'll tell you a great Dave Madden story. He was teaching me how to drive. And he'll tell you the story, but he'll clean it up because it's so unsafe. But this is what happened. He lives in Malibu at the beach, right? And he's letting me drive his little Fiat, his blue Fiat. He's letting me steer. I'm 11, 12. And I'm sitting on his lap because I can't reach the pedals. And he's letting me steer. And we start going a little bit faster. The tires aren't squealing yet. But we're going a little fast, and I can't reach the brakes. All of a sudden, Dave goes, and pretends to die of a heart attack. And the car starts flying. Tires squealing, whooping over the yellow line. Now, Dave will never admit that happened. He'll say, I had my foot on the brake the whole time. I was totally in control. Crap, I tell you. The guy tried to kill us.
Not the first runaway vehicle you've been in, though.
No, I've been in a few runaway vehicles, but usually they're being chased and there's sirens involved.
Dave Cassidy said that when you guys were just before the bus, he took you off kidnapped you on the bus. It seems like you got kidnapped a lot when you were 10.
Yeah.
That you were blowing lines or something like that, and he threatened you. Do you remember that part of the story?
I remember that part of the story. I don't remember it as that's what happened.
What do you remember?
I thought it was, because I can't imagine a response to blowing your lines over and over going for a joyride. I don't know where, but again, these are memories that are 35 years old. Who remembers exactly what sparked what? I'll take credit, what the heck. So I'm blowing all my lines. And David, we're supposed to get in the bus, and we're supposed to drive 20 feet tops. All they need is the Partridge Family bus rolling out of the scene. And we get in the bus, and David goes out the gate. And I'm going, what are you doing? And he just, and he starts driving the bus. And it's only a short trip over Barham till you're at Hollywood and Hyman, till you're in the heart of Hollywood. Well, all funny, right? All good and interesting, except for one thing. We're a very busy group of people. We don't go anywhere but to work. We have failed to realize how famous we had become. And that, you know, we're in the multicolored bus with our name on the side. It couldn't have been more obvious. And people start screaming, traffic stops, and there's cops and helicopter. I mean, I was scared. I think, I don't know the way David remembers it because it is an older story, but I remember being terrified. I'd never seen anything like it. I mean, literally, people just stopped and got out of their cars like it was okay. And Hollywood and Highland just stopped.
How did you get back?
There really were cops there. Cops got us out.
So,
cops got us out of a couple of things. We were in a parade in Cincinnati one time, and their parade usually has 50,000 people show up. Because the Partridge Family is going to be there and we're real happening at this time, they have cops and security for up to 100,000 people. 500,000 people show up, and they turn the city upside down, and we're on this float, which was actually a fire truck, and we haven't moved 10 feet from our hotel. When pandemonium breaks out, they're ripping David's clothes off, and they're ripping at Susan Day, and, you know, I'd like to think I'm fighting it out. That's the way I want to tell the story. And we all run back into the hotel, and Susan Day was I don't want to say never the same because it implies something bad, but she didn't want to be out in public again. She was terrified, terrified. David actually had clumps of hair ripped out of his head.
See, the full rock star experience.
Well, yeah, man, David Cassidy was on the cover of Life magazine. People forget how big of a deal. I don't know that there's a current band working that is as big as the Partridge Family was in its heyday. Selling tickets to, like, David Cassidy still holds the speed record, if you will, for selling out Wembley Stadium, the Australian soccer or tennis arena. He's still, to this day. No, Prince comes in second, and the Stones come in second at another one. People forget how big the Partridge Family was. It was ridiculous.
Well, it was really
the Partridge Family lunchbox is in the Smithsonian Institute. That's huge.
Little picture of you in your little jumpsuit.
Dude, no offense to little people, they made me a dwarf. You should see me. My head's this big. I'm a hydrocephalic dwarf. No offense to hydrocephalics or dwarves on that one.
The end of the bus ride, you guys got back to the studio. Dave said he got a lot of grief from the producers.
Yeah, David got, when we got back to the studio, David got a lot of grief for A, taking the bus, and B, kidnapping me, and C, causing pandemonium. But I will tell you this, in all honesty, that was probably the last time David Cassidy got any grief from anybody on the Partridge Family. You know, it was real quick to figure out where the money was. And the money was David Cassidy.
And he did become huge.
Huge.
Hard to go on location at that point.
Hard to do anything. David Cassidy was such a security issue. It was difficult to do anything. Yeah, we did one of the shows we did was at Kings Island Resort in Cincinnati again. Apparently we're huge there. And again, 500,000 people showed up, and we couldn't get to the stage, we couldn't do anything. The park, and this is a giant amusement park, bigger than Disneyland. I mean, it's gigantic. And there were so many people packed, nothing functioned. You couldn't get to, nobody, even if you didn't want to see the Partridge Family, you couldn't get to any other attraction. Nothing happened, the whole place just came to a standstill. It was amazing.
You guys did a cruise episode?
Yeah. Yeah, I remember the cruise episode. Has anybody told you about the cruise episode? Ah, darn. I was kind of bad on the cruise episode. Yeah.
How old were you at the time?
11, 12, somewhere in there. I'm running around, and I'm in a room with, God, I was such a jerk. I can't believe I was this much of a jerk. I can't believe I'm telling you this. I used to count my lines, and then I would count David Cassidy's lines. And I would always have more because I was the comedy. He was just the star. So I would scream and shout, why don't I get this stream of book? I have 72 lines. He has 40. Get me a bigger dressing room. I'm all at 10. And so we're on the boat, and I'm on the boat, and I have a cabin with my mother. And I count up the lines, and I have 81, and he only has 52. And I demand my own cabin. And they say, we can't. You're 10, dude. You can't have your own cabin. I want my own cabin, and I want my own cabin right now. Well, no. And I'd never heard them say no to David, and I was not going to stand for the no for me. So I ran off, and I guess this would be the most palatable of the versions of this story. I got into a lifeboat and pulled the thing over me, and they could not find me. And the rumor was that I had gotten so upset I jumped. So like, there was just once again pandemonium. It's like Danny Partridge jumped off the Princess Cruise Line. We're screwed. And then I came out like, I don't know if I spent the whole night. I was really mad. But the captain, because I had done some other things, the captain said if nobody could control me, they would put the whole crew off in Mazatlan. And I believe them. They, you know, otherwise I'd have stayed an out-of-control child. But the captain talked to me, and then our producers talked to me. They said, listen, you know, this will cost us millions, I guess in those days, hundreds of thousands of dollars. They're really going to throw us off this boat because of you. You can't do this. You're 10. And for some reason, it got through, because normally when they'd say it like that, you're 10. It would offend me greatly, because I'm also at work. You know, but that time it got through, and I said, okay, I'm sorry. I don't want to get off the boat at Mazatlan. Let's do a show. And the show came out great.
Shirley said she was seasick a little bit. She had to go to a hypnotist to get the seasickness stopped.
Is that true?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't get seasick at all. No, I don't remember the boat even rocking. But, you know, Shirley, woo-hoo. I'm kidding.
That's all we've got time for today. Be here for the next exciting episode and part 2 of my conversation with Danny Bonaduce. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.